Fame can put someone in the spotlight, but it doesn't make them safe. Some well-known people have disappeared, leaving behind only questions. No one knows where they went, why they left, or what happened to them. Years have passed, but in 2025, these people are still missing. In this video, we'll look at 5 more real stories of celebrities who vanished and were never found. It was February 1st, 1995. Richie Edwards, the guitarist and lyricist of the British rock band Manic Street Preachers, checked out of his hotel in London. That morning, he vanished without a trace. Later that day, his car was found abandoned near the Severn Bridge in Bristol, an area known for quiet disappearances. Many assumed the worst, but no one could say for sure. His body was never found, and his story quickly became one of the most mysterious cases in music history. Richie was 27 years old, an age that's drawn attention over the years due to how many well-known musicians passed away at that point in their lives. But in Richie's case, people were torn. Some believed he simply chose to walk away from everything, while others pointed to his ongoing personal struggles as a sign something deeper may have been going on. Richie wasn't known for his guitar skills. His strength came from his words. He was the band's emotional anchor, writing lyrics that were heavy, raw, and deeply personal. Fans related to the honesty in his writing, but those closest to him knew the pain behind it. He dealt with serious mental health challenges, a severe eating disorder, and signs of emotional distress. One of the most talked about moments came in 1991. During an interview, Richie used a razor to carve the words "for real" into his arm, trying to prove how serious he was about his art. While some saw it as an intense statement, others saw a man who was quietly falling apart. Over time, his behavior became more unpredictable. His health declined, and there were signs he was turning to harmful coping methods. By 1994, the band released the Holy Bible, an album that was almost entirely shaped by Richie's lyrics. The songs were dark and painful, filled with emotion. Still, Richie was a strong presence in the band. On stage, he had a certain intensity that made it hard to look away. In the weeks leading up to his disappearance, Richie withdrew large amounts of cash from his bank account. He started pulling away from people. His bandmates were worried, but there weren't any clear signs that he planned to vanish. In interviews, he openly spoke about what he was going through, but also said he never thought about ending his life. On the morning he disappeared, Richie left behind his passport, wallet, keys, and medication at the hotel. He was later spotted at the Severn Bridge toll booth. At first, it was thought he crossed the bridge at 2:55 p.m., but investigators later realized the timestamp might have been in 24-hour format, meaning it could have actually been 2:55 a.m. That 12-hour gap has never been explained. 2 weeks later, his car was found near the bridge, locked. Inside was the toll receipt. But there was no sign of Richie. No physical evidence turned up. And without any answers, people started forming theories. Some believed he may have planned to disappear. His sister, Rachel, never gave up hope that he was alive. She believed he might have started over somewhere else. That idea gained more attention after a few odd sightings over the years. In 1997, a college lecturer said he met someone in Goa, India, who called himself Rick and looked just like Richie. In 1998, a woman in Lanzarote claimed she saw him at a bar. He quickly left after being recognized. Then in 2004, after the tsunami in Thailand, someone reported seeing a man who looked like Richie in the area. People close to him, including authors who studied his case, said Richie had long been fascinated by stories where people faked their deaths and started new lives. He'd written about it in his journals. It wasn't just passing curiosity. It seemed like something he had seriously thought about. There was even a relative of his who had once vanished for years while living in Texas, which may have inspired him. Despite everything, the Manic Street Preachers kept going. Their next album, Everything Must Go, had a lighter tone, but Richie remained a part of their work. He was never forgotten. To this day, Richie Edwards' disappearance remains unsolved. Whether he left by choice or something else happened, only he knows the truth. And that silence still lingers for everyone who loved him. It was July 30th, 1975, in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Jimmy Hoffa, a 62-year-old labor leader, was supposed to meet two men at the Machus Red Fox restaurant. Hoffa had led the International Brotherhood of Teamsters for years. He was a strong figure in American labor, respected by workers and feared by some because of his known ties to organized crime. On that day, he was scheduled to meet Anthony Tony Provenzano, a Teamsters official with mob connections, and Anthony Tony Jack Giacalone, a mafia captain based in Detroit. But something didn't go as planned. Hoffa never came out of that meeting. Earlier in the day, Hoffa had called his wife Josephine and a friend, saying the two men hadn't shown up yet. At around 2:15 p.m. he called Josephine again. He sounded irritated and said the meeting wasn't going well but didn't give up. Hoffa had faced tough situations before. Still, that was the last call he would ever make. Witnesses at the restaurant said they saw Hoffa speaking with a few men that afternoon. Some claimed he got into a maroon car, possibly a Lincoln or Mercury Marcus. That was the last confirmed sighting of him. His green Pontiac Grandville was later found in the restaurant parking lot, but Hoffa was nowhere to be found. At first, people thought he may have missed the meeting or gone somewhere on his own. But very quickly, it became clear something serious had happened. The Machus Red Fox restaurant would go on to be remembered for one of the most well-known disappearances in American history. For nearly 5 decades, Hoffa's disappearance has remained unsolved. During his time with the Teamsters, he had built a reputation as a tough negotiator and organizer, but his connections to the mob had always raised concern. After serving time in prison, Hoffa was trying to return to power. Many believed that move may have put him at risk. One major issue was the Teamsters pension fund, which had been used by mob figures to support their interests. Hoffa's return could have disrupted that system. Provenzano and Giacalone, two men linked to organized crime, were believed to have had reasons to keep him out. Still, no one knows exactly what happened after Hoffa entered that maroon car. Over the years, the FBI and other agencies carried out numerous investigations. One theory pointed to mob boss Russell Bufalino as the one who gave the order. Others possibly involved included Thomas Andretta, Salvatore Sally Bugs Briguglio, Gabriel Briguglio, and Hoffa's longtime associate Charles Chucky O'Brien. The FBI collected over 16,000 pages of evidence, but no one was ever officially charged. The case remained open. In 2001, investigators discovered one important clue: Hoffa's hair inside a Mercury Marquis. This confirmed he had been in the car, but didn't lead to what happened next or where he ended up. To this day, Hoffa's remains have never been found. Some believe he was taken to another location and quietly dealt with. Others think any physical trace of him was completely erased to avoid discovery. Over the years, there have been many tips. In 1989, a man named Donald Tony the Greek Frankos said Hoffa was buried under Giant Stadium in New Jersey, but nothing was found there. In 2004, Frank the Irishman Sheeran wrote in a book that he was the one who ended Hoffa's life in a Detroit home. Investigators searched the house and found blood under the floorboards, but it wasn't Hoffa's. In 2013, another tip came from Anthony Zerilli, the son of a former Detroit mob boss. He claimed Hoffa was buried in Oakland Township. The FBI searched the area, but again found nothing. Other theories placed Hoffa in many places: a swimming pool in Michigan, a driveway in Roseville, a Detroit skyscraper, even the Great Lakes or the Everglades. But none have ever led to real answers. After nearly 50 years, the truth about what happened to Jimmy Hoffa is still unknown. He went into a meeting that afternoon expecting to talk business, but he never returned, and his story remains one of the biggest mysteries in American history. It was January 6, 1994, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Elenia Maria Solicarisi, a 23-year-old Italian woman, had been in the city for about a week. She was the eldest daughter of famous Italian entertainers Albano Carisi and Romina Power. Despite growing up in the public eye, Elenia had stepped away from the spotlight. She was focused on writing and traveling, hoping to find inspiration through her experiences. She had already spent months exploring South and Central America before arriving in New Orleans. There, she checked into the Leedale Hotel, a rundown building on St. Charles Avenue, with a man named Alexander Masekela, a Jamaican street musician who was 20 years older than her. Masekela, also known as Pops, played the cornet on the streets for donations. He had a troubled past involving substance issues and violence, but Elenia seemed drawn to his personality and ideas. She looked up to him as a mentor, and though their connection raised questions, she appeared comfortable with her new lifestyle. On the morning of January 6th, Elenia left the hotel around 11 a.m. She didn't say where she was going, but her parents later said she had planned to spend the day in the French Quarter, a part of the city she enjoyed. She loved being around musicians, writers, and artists, people who inspired her creative work. She never came back. For days, no one knew where she had gone. On January 18th, after not hearing from her and learning that all of her belongings, including her passport, clothing, and journals, were still in her room, her parents reported her missing. The only thing missing was Elenia herself. In the days that followed, her parents traced her steps. They learned that about a week after she vanished, Masakela had tried to use her unsigned traveler's checks to pay for his hotel stay. This raised suspicions, but when police questioned him, he denied knowing anything about her disappearance. He also claimed their relationship wasn't romantic, though they had been staying together in the same room with 2 separate beds at Elenia's request. Then, a strange tip came in. A security guard named Albert Cordova said that on the evening of January 6th, he saw a woman sitting alone on a wharf near the Mississippi River. She looked like Elenia. When he approached and asked her to leave, she reportedly said, "I belong in water anyway," before jumping in. Cordova said she swam toward the middle of the river, but after a barge passed and created large waves, she began struggling. He claimed she screamed for help before vanishing under the water. The Coast Guard searched nearly 90 miles of the river but found nothing. The current was strong, and it was possible the woman was carried into the Gulf of Mexico. Cordova was shown a picture of Elenia but couldn't say for sure if it was her. The story didn't sit well with Elenia's family. Her mother, Romina, couldn't accept the possibility that her daughter was gone. She believed Elenia had chosen to disappear, maybe to escape fame and live a quiet life. She even spoke to psychics who claimed Elenia was alive, though no solid evidence ever backed this up. Elenia's father, Albano, felt differently. As time passed, he began to believe the woman in the river really had been his daughter. In 2013, after nearly 20 years, he requested that Elenia be declared legally deceased. It was a painful decision, but one he felt was necessary to move forward. Over the years, there were scattered reports. In 2008, someone claimed Elenia was living in a convent in Arizona, not far from where her mother owned a home, but that story was quickly dismissed. Other tips suggested sightings in Florida, but nothing ever came from them. In 2014, Elenia was officially declared presumed dead, though her body was never found. Her mother never gave up hope. She continued to believe that Elenia might still be alive, living a life away from the fame she left behind. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened. Was Elenia the woman seen in the river that night? Did she disappear on purpose, hoping to start over? Or did something more sinister happen? The mystery remains unsolved, and after all these years, the questions still don't have answers. It was August 1974 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Connie Converse, a 50-year-old former singer-songwriter, packed up all her belongings into her Volkswagen Beetle and drove away. No one has seen or heard from her since. Born Elizabeth Eaton Converse on August 3, 1924 in Laconia, New Hampshire, Connie was once known for her intelligence and creativity. She grew up in Concord and graduated as valedictorian of her high school class. She later attended Mount Holyoke College, but left after 2 years to follow a different path: music. Her family played a key role in shaping her interests. Her father was a Baptist minister, and their home encouraged thoughtful conversations and creativity. Her mother also had a love for music. Connie, however, was interested in more than just music. She was drawn to poetry, history, and politics too. In the early 1950s, Connie moved to New York City, settling in Greenwich Village. There, she started writing and performing songs for small groups of friends. Her music was personal and emotional, and she was one of the first artists to write in a style that would later define the folk music movement. But during her time, she remained largely unknown. In 1954, she made a brief appearance on the CBS morning show, performing a few of her songs on national TV. But the opportunity didn't lead to any major breakthroughs. She had recorded songs, but none were officially released. One of her biggest supporters was Gene Dietsch, an animator and close friend. Gene recorded many of her songs using his own equipment. He saw her as not just talented, but also thoughtful and unique, someone who simply didn't fit into the music industry of that time. After years of trying to gain recognition, Connie left New York in 1961. She moved to Ann Arbor to be near her brother Phil and took a job as a secretary. She later worked as a writer and managing editor for a peace-focused journal. While respected in that field, she no longer wrote music. By the early 1970s, Connie seemed unhappy. Her life hadn't turned out the way she'd hoped, and she had stopped creating music. Then, in 1974, she sent a series of letters to her family and friends, explaining she planned to leave and start over somewhere new. She asked them not to look for her and told her brother to manage her music rights. One of her letters included a cryptic line, "To survive at all, I expect I must drift back down through the other half of the 20th century. I might survive there quite a few years, who knows?" It was the last thing anyone heard from her. On August 10, 1974, Connie drove away and vanished. Her car was never found, and there's no record of where she might have gone. Her disappearance left her loved ones with more questions than answers. Phil hired a private investigator, hoping for answers. But what he was told only deepened the mystery. "I might find your sister," the investigator said, "but that doesn't mean she'll want to come back or even speak to you. If she wants to disappear, that's her right." To this day, no one knows if Connie left on her own to start fresh or if something more serious happened. Some believe she may have chosen to isolate herself, while others worry something bad occurred. Decades passed without answers. But in 2004, one of Connie's songs was played on a radio show by DJ David Garland. This small moment sparked renewed interest in her work. Over time, people began to recognize her as a trailblazer in music, someone whose style came before its time. In 2009, more of her songs were released to the public. Then, in 2023, a full collection titled Musics was released, featuring 32 tracks that showcased her talent and emotional depth. Even though we may never know what truly happened to Connie Converse, her music has found the audience it never had during her lifetime. The mystery around her disappearance still lingers, but her voice continues to be heard by new listeners who are just now discovering her work. She may have left the world quietly, but her songs have made sure she was never truly forgotten. It was October 10, 2014. Rico Omar Harris, 37, was driving from Los Angeles to Seattle. He had just spent a few days visiting his family in Southern California. Rico, a former semi-professional basketball player, was heading to Seattle for a fresh start with his girlfriend Jennifer Song. But he never made it there. Rico's early life was difficult. Born in 1977 in Los Angeles, he grew up in a troubled home. His father, Henry Harris, was known to be violent, and his parents separated when Rico was young. Raised by his mother, Margaret Fernandez, Rico focused on basketball, a talent that would eventually define much of his life. He stood out in high school, attracting attention from college scouts and even NBA star Lamar Odom. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, Rico had real potential. He started at Arizona State University but faced legal trouble in 1996, which disrupted his college basketball career. After transferring to Los Angeles City College, he helped lead the team to a state championship. Later, Rico joined the Harlem Globetrotters, but that too was cut short. After just a month, he was assaulted and suffered a serious head injury that forced him to leave the team. What followed was a steep decline. Rico developed a dependency on substances and was arrested several times. His career faded and his life spiraled. But in 2007, things changed. Rico entered rehab, got clean, and found stability. He started working as a security guard and entered a committed relationship with Jennifer Song. By 2014, he had plans to settle down in Seattle. A job interview marked a turning point. He was ready to move forward. But before doing so, he made an unplanned trip to Los Angeles. On October 9th, Rico drove from Seattle to Los Angeles without telling Jennifer. He wanted to visit his mother and resolve long-standing family tensions. He also brought his younger brother a new phone, but things didn't go as planned. The conversation with his mother was emotional and didn't bring the closure he hoped for. After midnight on October 10th, Rico began the long drive back to Seattle. He had been awake for over 36 hours but was determined to continue. At 10:45 a.m., he left a voicemail for Jennifer saying he planned to rest in the mountains near Sacramento. He mentioned being tired and needing a break before finishing the trip. Half an hour later, his phone went silent. No one ever heard from him again. 3 days later, Rico's black Nissan was found abandoned near Cache Creek, about 60 miles north of Sacramento. The area was remote and far from the usual route between Los Angeles and Seattle. His phone, a credit card, and a bottle of alcohol were inside the car. It looked like the car had been searched through. Some of his belongings were missing. A large-scale search followed. Teams used search dogs, all-terrain vehicles, and aircraft with thermal imaging. They eventually found a backpack believed to be Rico's, which held his phone. Videos on the device showed him alone in his car, acting erratically, tossing CDs and damaging items. His wallet was also found nearby, but Rico was nowhere to be seen. Several theories emerged. Some believed something bad may have happened to him. Others thought he might have chosen to disappear. Some even questioned his mental state, considering his behavior in the videos and the sudden stop in the mountains. There were a few reported sightings of Rico after his car was found, but none were confirmed. Witnesses said the person they saw was behaving strangely, but no one could say for sure it was him. One key detail came from phone data. His last known signal came from a spot over 70 miles away from where the car was found. How he got there, or why, remains unclear. Despite all efforts, Rico Harris was never found. His disappearance remains unsolved. His loved ones, especially Jennifer, continue to wait for answers. Years later, no one knows what really happened. What started as a road trip home turned into a mystery that's still unanswered.